I mean, when I think about this question, I think about just how much like myself has transformed.
Mm.
Like I think of our reunion last year and I was like there was a lot of nervous system work I was still doing.
Mm.
There were a lot of parts still coming up, especially like as I was sharing like my healing offerings, a little bit of
Mm.
my coaching offerings too. And so when I think about the relationship to self and parts right now, I feel like when I'm in self, like I'm listening to spirit so much
Mhm.
more.
Mhm.
Um, and when the parts are coming up, like sometimes I can even see different versions of myself,
Mm. Mm.
where that part was formed. And then
Mhm.
I can like feel spirit being like, it's okay. Like,
Mhm.
I love that version of you. And like, you're here now.
Mhm.
And like you get to be this version of you. You get to be in this more healed, healthier, um, more rooted and grounded version of you.
Mm.
Mm. I
That's
like yourself.
beautiful.
Yeah. um, Current relationship of I feel like, for me, I feel like I'm discovering parts of myself, and it's actually hard to sometimes invite all of it to be present.
Mm.
Because I think in the past year, especially, there's been a lot of protective or like this stance of like, not, don't show your full self because folks can't handle it, or can you handle it? What
Mhm.
part of it is yourself and what part of it is like you performing parts and habits that you're used
Mm.
to,
Mhm. Yeah.
and like distinguishing. And I forget where I heard it, but like, we all have that inner dialogue. And it was somebody who was talking about how like the inner dialogue actually isn't you, it's the thing that's listening to it.
Oh.
Like that's the self, like the observer inside, which I love
Mm.
that you said spirit. And so I don't know, like trying to get in touch with my spirit. And I really appreciate coming to you all and being in this space, because there's something disarming when you have the similar language and you're going on
Mm.
this journey with one another. Like I feel more safe. I feel more trusted. I feel like I don't have to be in a perfect self.
Mm. Mhm.
And that myself can be in its parts, through its parts, with it parts. And like that too is me,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
I don't know if that answered the question, but
It
it's
totally did.
Yeah.
still a
So
question.
good.
Still a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I think about being in self, like prior to going on my healing journey, like, because we're in a hyper individualistic culture, we're like what Fatma was saying, like we're encouraged just to constantly think of ourselves. But like I realize as the further I go in my healing journey and have a relationship to spirit and to self and my parts, I realize how different I am than my like egotistical conception of myself was before, and how personality traits that I thought were myself, like heady,
Mm.
and what other people experience as I grew to have a like radical acceptance and love relationship with my parts. A lot of like my those habits and personality traits like fell away, and I'm getting to know myself as more like the 8 C's, like
Mm.
more relaxed and more confident, not in a like arrogant way, but confident as in like I can be humble and I don't need to like be in the fray, because I'm like I can acknowledge myself if someone else doesn't acknowledge me, and not as a consolation prize, like it's okay, but more like the love that I receive from my capital S self, like it really fills me up. And that really surprised me. And now when I meet these different parts and I'm constantly meeting new parts, I know that I have like transformed so much, like you said, Deanna, because sometimes the shit that parts say, like, makes me laugh, whereas before it was like a repulsion of like, "I can't believe I think that," like, "Where is this coming from?" But now I'm like, "Oh, baby, you're so hilarious, like, you really think those fears are gonna, like, come true in real life, and, like, I'm sorry you feel that way." So I feel like more of a mama bear, like, to my
Mhm.
parts, and so, yeah, and that's been a huge shift. so a lot of those like trauma responses that made up my personality, they're like falling away more and more. And I'm getting to know myself in a different way.
Oh, I love that.
Mm,
It's beautiful.
really beautiful.
Mhm.
So I getting here has kind of made me realize that my current, like this current relationship with self and my parts, I know from a lot of the work that I've done with, especially with like a parts therapist and a parts coach.
Mm.
Um, I realized that there's this part that's melded, right? That's so rooted in capitalism. You know,
Mhm.
this is the industrious part, this part that wants to like, you got to go, 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 work, work, work.
Yeah.
And I realized that everything that's been going on in the world, I had not even I hadn't even realized that part was like do, 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 like just melding itself back to that center. And like kind of there was a thing that the therapist used to say around it like merges with your idea of yourself in a way that it can be really difficult to remove. You know, like, well, that's just how I am. That's I just am like that.
Mhm.
And so I felt like I'd done a lot of work around that and I was feeling really good. And then as you know, you witness the world and all these things that you lack control over, that industrious protective part comes in and is like, I'm going to take over and take control
Mm.
because this is what I know how to do in order to be safe and in order to do whatever. So being here, I hadn't quite realized, like I knew I wasn't as able to access self, but I couldn't name why. And like being able to go, oh, she's back. You're like back and you're not, you know, your role changed because, you know, that thing of like our parts never go away. Their roles just shift, right? They have a different relationship.
Mhm.
And a different level of trust building that has to happen with the self. And so I was like, okay, this is the work that I need to do right now is to remind this part of myself, I got you. I got us. We're going to out and like we got to whatever we need to do to get back into flow with each other. Like you do not have to be in the driver's seat, you know, you do not always have to be on the mic right in here. So that's been really one of the gifts that like I had no idea what kind of gifts would come out of coming here to this gathering. You know, I knew that they'd be there though. And that's definitely one of them.
Mm.
Yeah, I resonate. I'm like, oh, myself is coming back.
Welcome, Far's capital S self. Far self has stepped into the chat. Yes. I love it. Well, I know the next question is how would you describe you and self? And as I was listening to you, I felt like a generosity of spirit in yourself, capital S self, Cecily, of just you being able to say to your parts like, oh, you're working so hard to take control of the wheel and not like, ew, like stop doing that in an antagonizing way, but more like, I see how hard you're working and it's okay. And I think that takes a lot of compassion and generosity because it's easier just to get irritated and be like, why are you doing this to me, part? You know, so I just felt like I witnessed that about yourself, Cecily.
Thank you for naming that because it like, you know, that blame becomes quick. The shame becomes quick. The like, avoidance becomes quick. So I really appreciate you naming that.
And the punishment comes quick, you know.
Oof.
We've been, it has infiltrated into our beings this white supremacy way of like punishing ourselves.
I come from two Catholic families.
That part too. And it's like, actually, no, we could be in loving relationship with our parts. And that's beautiful because it's undoing all of this punishment that has been around us for so long and actually practicing the transformative justice and accountability that we talk about all the time.
And I think also doing that collectively, like you don't have to do that individually. Like we can all be in this collectively. Like that space is also nice to be like, oh, I'm not in this alone. Can be alongside so many others, you know?
Yeah. And something about the collective is like something I'm feeling in this space is like there's so many different possibilities of how to be in self in relationship to spirit and your parts. And so I think when I felt that shame or that blame internally, the punishment, it's like it's always been a binary of like, stop doing this, just do the opposite. And there's not many options on the table for how the part reorients. But when I'm in self, I'm like, okay, part, how do you want to be now that we've had this conversation? And the possibilities are endless.
Mhm.
And then stepping into this space with however many people, like 80 people here, being committed to self leadership, it's like, oh, it doesn't have to look a certain way. It's not, don't do this, which is the way of the world, like the mainstream dominant, like healing culture, like capitalist. Well, oh, don't make these mistakes, just do it this way. And it's like, no, that's you. It might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. And what's true liberation and relationship to self is that you get to create possibilities for
Mhm.
yourself and you get to decide. And I think that's why it's so powerful to be
Right.
here. It's like a permissioning
Yeah.
because
Mm.
everyone is doing their own
Yes.
version of self. I'm like, I don't have to be
Yes.
like Deanna and
Mhm.
Far and Cecily. I can just be
Yeah.
Hetty.
And tell us about
Mhm.
Hetty. What's Hetty's self? I want to know more.
Yeah. How
I saw you push it and be like, I like yourself.
yeah.
Hey, you did that too.
I know. I know.
I
I love
I have found that I'm a lot more playful when I'm in self.
Mm.
And so like sometimes when I would push hard feelings down, there's like the initial struggle or suffering, but then so there was like a bracing internally, and then I would brace against that bracing to be like, I don't want to feel that. And then when I would do my like healing work, I'd be like, okay, like how do we fix this so that I can get to the next level of like self improvement or whatever, not capital S self in that context. And as I've grown in my relationship to self, being more in myself more of the time and more energetically there, and in relationship to parts, I'm like, oh, sometimes like grief or anger doesn't need to be analyzed and solved. And like I remember after one somatic therapy session with Taylor where it was like really intense talking about my grief and processing the grief. And next morning when I woke up, I was boiling water for my tea and the grief hit me like really hard in this moment. And any other day it'd be like, okay, like this is really inconvenient, but I know I need to grieve. Like, let me put a pin in this for later because I have to get ready for my workday. But at that moment in my kitchen, like alone, my husband and dog were still asleep. I started dancing in the kitchen with my grief.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, this is like a new way of being, not to be like, oh, I'm going to feel you later and then I'm going to soothe it. I was like, I don't need to soothe this grief. I just need to be with it. And the reason I danced was because inside it felt like a wriggly sensation. So I decided I'm going to move my body on the outside, how I feel. My grief is moving on the inside. And that's all I needed that day. And I went on with my day and I was like, oh, like I have the capacity to be more playful when I'm in self instead of trying to be this like super serious problem solver. And so, yeah, that's been feeling really good. Thanks, Tiana.
Um, Adriana from our cohort had asked me a question in relation to dancing that
Yeah.
hit me so deeply because I was talking about fear, and the question was, how would it feel to dance with your fear?
Mm,
And the image that appeared from that, right? And like being here in this space with everyone, the practice of movement, the importance, the sacredness, the power of dance, and like the wisdom of our bodies. And like I feel like being able to be in self, there's a connection between, all the things that are going on here and all the things that exist here. And like there's a level of like the pieces that we put up to block,
Mhm.
create these
mm,
imaginary separations
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
hide from each other.
Yeah.
You kind of like open the gates a little bit and start to be able to access different knowledges, different histories, different truths.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big component for me of being in self.
Mm.
Mhm. When you talk about the layers, like, I feel like as I'm more in relationship with myself and what that looks like for me, and then recognizing the parts, there's also this thing that comes up around the seasons around me and
Mm.
how, every season is going to bring up a different part. And I'm
Mm.
talking about like
Mm.
the summer, the fall, the winter, the spring, like, and I'm noticing what parts are activated within each of those times, and then we're constantly transitioning and changing. So I feel
Right.
like being in self now has made me more aware that I can be flexible. Like there
Mm.
are parts of my identity that I love and I honor and will continue to be me. And I also have permission to consistently reinvent myself
Yeah.
based on how I'm healing my parts, what is happening in that season in my life, but also what is happening in the seasons around me in that time period.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's another like piece of what I love about CHJL so much is that we're rooting in indigenous ways, indigenous
Mhm.
practices. And that reminds us that it's not just us healing in isolation all of these parts are connected to the elements around us, the ancestors walking with us, our families, our friends. None of this is in isolation. So like
Yeah.
we were talking about yesterday, like when I'm in self, when I heal my parts, it's rippling across everything
Yeah.
around me, and that like
Mhm.
feels like another piece of beauty in my
Mhm.
growth. And sometimes I'm also like, wait, I'm going to transform again. Like, why do I have to do this? I just got here. I'm feeling really comfortable. This is really nice. And like, spirit's like, no,
Yeah.
next time, next one.
Well, I'm so grateful for you like doing that work and giving yourself permission to change through the seasons, because I feel like that's how we as a community get to experience all the gifts that we've been brought onto this plane with. And so I think that when we are like called to do something and then we let our fear parts like drive the bus, then not only are we like not robbing ourselves of our own like freedom and choices, but there is something missing from the community. And I think that's part of the violence of capitalism, of having to grow up to be workers, consumers. And I'm like, if people did not have to earn a living, how different would our community be? Because people would be able to bring their gifts and like shift with the changing of the seasons and the seasons of their life and what is going on in the community. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up, and just, and even seeing your like evolution as a cohort member. Like, I don't keep in super close day to day touch with you, but I remember like the demo coaching that Damon did during our cohort, to now you coming and like blessing the space of like, girl, your work shows, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bar, what about you?
I know I didn't answer. Damn it, you got me. I think like how would you describe you in self? I just like am going back to this feeling I had at the afternoon of yesterday when we were doing qigong with Sally
Mhm.
up there, and it was just this feeling of like playful center strength. And there weren't words. There was just like a feeling and a sense.
Mm.
And you could feel everybody else also trying to find it. And that yourself sort of disintegrates into something else that you can
Mm.
just like feel and be in. And then the sun was shining. It
Mhm.
was just like, I don't know, like like sometimes myself is just like quiet and calm and
Mm.
just wants to be in that peace
Mm.
and like offer that peace and like let that be like the water that we're swimming in. And it doesn't mean perfection or anything. It just means like I can hold, I can move, I can bend, I can sway, because I do
Mm.
think that is the muscles we need to practice. And like even in seasonality, like I think about climate chaos and like
Mhm.
even
Mhm.
those traditions, like the adaptability that we have to like be able to build in. Um, I love feeling that in my body and myself having that. memory and that knowledge.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And it was just so lovely. Like I felt the way that I could connect with people afterwards was much better. 'Cause I
Mm.
was just like calm inside, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
I don't know. I like that
Mm.
self. I was like, she chill.
Yeah.
She chill. Yeah.
Which seems so connected to your essence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people say that and it always surprises me because, oh, there's a lot going on. A lot going on in there.
Mhm.
And people say, like, I help them co-regulate, and it's so fascinating to me because I'm like, yeah, because I'm like thinking in multiple fucking levels and
Mhm.
dimensions of what's going on right now, and it's
Yep.
exhausting.
Mhm.
It's exhausting.
Well, that's what I was trying to say before of like what parts of us are conditioned
Yeah.
trauma responses that we're meeting. And like we're all women of color
Yes.
here. And so just how much
Yeah.
have you been socialized to constantly be doing that labor invisibly? And then when you're being held in space like this, being led by a teacher like Sally, for you to
Right.
feel that total that's how I experience you as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
Thanks.
So
She in there.
yeah, she's here.
She's here.
Yeah.
Should we do the next question, which
Yeah.
is what parts have you formed closer relationships with?
Oof.
I mean, I will go because I think what you said, I've been reflecting a lot on how my own upbringing, that there's certain emotions I felt like I couldn't feel.
Mhm.
Anger is one of them.
Mhm.
And another one that actually CHJL has really helped me with. And I don't know if it's like a part, but it's like how I handle grief
Mhm.
or like what grief means to me. Um, when I was really young, when I was like 5 years old, I lived in a house with my grandparents and my aunts and my uncles, and we like all lived together. And I was very close to my grandpa because he babysitted me by watching Days of Our Lives and feeding me candy.
Aw.
That was the thing. And we were so close. And I remember like one night I like had this feeling and I like woke up and I went to his room and he was having trouble breathing. And I like woke
Mm.
up everybody in the house and he like went to the hospital. And that was like the last time that I saw him.
Aw.
And I also remember like my family like not allowing me to be a part of the process because I was too young, right? So they wanted to protect me from it, but I was so unclear of like how to move through that and felt like I had to like shut it down. And so, last year when we were here on this after we had the surfing day was when I got the call that my dad was in the ICU. And
Mm.
I had to like rush home because my sweetie, he was like, I think you need to be here.
Mm. Mhm.
And there was a moment when my dad was kind of in his final stages. Like I had this bag that I had with me at CHJL, and like, and it was the rose medicine that
Mhm.
Beatrice gave us.
Yeah.
And
Aw.
like in my family, like my grandfather planted a rose bush in our house, and my dad loves roses. And like we have this thing called attar, which is what we put on like religious sites, and it's like
Mm.
really important for like transition moments.
Mhm.
And then I also had a bundle of sage for my friend Sarah, who I had met that night, who brought it from her lands.
Mm.
And I had like my prayer beads in there because I don't know why I was like, I'm going to the CHGL crew. I better bring my prayer beads. I had all of this like with me. And so when he had his last moment, I could like spray that medicine. I could be with him. We sang, and it was just my sister, my mom, and I. And I'm still learning how to move through that grief, but it's something about CHJL. Like you all don't even know how you held me through that moment.
Mm.
Like I felt I'm still figuring it out because it's
Mm.
here and it's
Mhm.
present. And like I honestly, since that moment, like that time that we went surfing, when I was at the airport, there was a long ass line. I threw out my surf gear because I was in such a fucking state that I
Mhm.
couldn't even think about checking a bag.
Yeah.
And so like when we go surfing tomorrow on Sunday, it'll be the first time I've done it since my dad passed.
Wow.
Wow.
And there's something that just feels really right about that.
Mm.
Mhm.
Um, does that answer the question?
It does. Girl, this answer.
Yeah, this story needed to come out.
No, I'm
Yes.
just letting you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that grief, right? Like that's a part of me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us be there with you through
Yeah.
it. Because I remember when it happened, you shared it with us in our group chat and you
Yeah.
sent that song, Moon. You
Moon
sent us two
Shadow.
songs,
Yes.
Moon Shadow. And I remember playing those songs right when you sent them. And I felt the grief and
Mhm.
I felt you. And it was because, again, your essence, your spirit let us be there for you.
Yeah.
So thank you for allowing us to be present for you.
Thank you for being with that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for letting me I don't open up like that often. So it's very sweet to be able to. I mean, so any stories you all want to get out? Or we can talk about the actual question.
No, I mean, okay, I want to make sure I'm holding the
know.
question gently.
Right.
Closer relationship. It's interesting this conversation around grief came up earlier, and there was this thing around like process and protocol,
Mm-hmm.
and like at what age you're allowed to even be a part of the reality
Yeah.
of death, loss, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and in my family, I've been to I can't even count how many funerals I've been to. And when I was young and my grandma passed, we were the ones that did her hair and did her makeup, and so that process was really like being able to be there with the physical, what held the spirit that was her, and like being able to love it, and like being able to do that for this last time. um from there on out, it was like that was part of the process for me of going through grief. And so that was with my dad's family, and with my mom's family. They're not as close in that way, like distant cousins aren't like your cousins. And so I asked if I could do my grandma's hair and makeup, and that was like I realized the way that um protocol can be support, like this thing that holds you in times, right? And like all that medicine that you received as a part of this, and like so all of this is really roundabout way for me saying the things that I feel like I'm trying to get closer to. I think about the people who have been before me or who have shaped me in some way. um I'm actually really trying to form a closer relationship with sacrifice and what that actually means. And in some ways, like, I feel like I've been reclaiming my relationship with productivity separate from capitalism, like the joy of doing something that you're really just like, there's such deep satisfaction when you're done and it's so beautiful, and you feel the thread of your core being thrummed by the universe. And I feel like sacrifice is such a big part of Lakota people and how we see the world and how we see our relationships and responsibilities to each other. And I think of the times that I've sacrificed for someone in a way that wasn't out of this idea of like, that's what you're supposed to do as a woman. That's what you're supposed to do as a whatever,
Yeah.
And so being able to and also to be able to like be present for someone who's sacrificing something for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the part where, like, I guess I don't know that the part is sacrifice, but like there's a part of me that is so uncertain about what that looks like. And being able to like, there's grief mixed in there somewhere. Like there's a disconnect from this individualism that has made it so that like we're not sure how to interact with each other often without deep harm.
Yeah.
And then when the natural harm of existence occurs, we're so lost on how to reconnect it, like how to repair it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I'm working on.
Yeah. Just a light lift.
And also I say I'm Lakota and Dakota, so like my other relatives aren't like, hey, I'm just putting that out there. Be mad at me. I get in trouble.
I know.
Yeah. This is such a good question. I think two are coming up, but the one I'm going to share about I feel like it's harder to share, so I'm gonna challenge myself. So I feel like I've been growing in my relationship with my like embarrassment part.
Mm.
And it's really like sticky to approach that part because I'm like, what is the purpose of this part?
Mhm.
Um, but I realized that that was the thing holding me back from so many like other transformations. And so just like one very recent example was like many of you know, my husband and I are trying to conceive, and it's been like a year and a half since we all met and we sat in circle. And last like end of over the weekend I started bleeding. You know, it's been an up and down journey, but I don't know why, like, as this event got closer and closer, there was a part that was like, I don't want to go to reunion.
Mm.
And I was like, why? Like, I knew it wasn't self energy because when I was in self energy, I was like, I'm so excited to see everyone. And then I got to know the part and I realized the part said, I'm embarrassed. I'm not coming with a baby because
Oh.
it's been 18 months. And yeah, just I was like, okay, I'm here for that. Like, I'm not sure myself understands your logic, but I'm like, I'm so sorry that you're feeling this way, you know? So I was just holding that. And then when I got here and like self and parts of me wanted to be here. And there was a part that was like, I'm gonna leave early, like before lunch, so nobody asks me about it. And the way that Taylor like brought us into the space, I was able to fully like embody that shape and then like process it in the triad. And then I was like fully here. And just naming that to my triad, I'm like, I was embarrassed. Part of me was embarrassed to come. Like I did something wrong. Like I failed or I wasn't in integrity with, you know, what I set out to do. And and I think the way that like y'all responded to this part is like, oh, like I don't have to feel shame. And so I'm I'm trying to open up more space just to be in dialogue with embarrassment. Especially like as a survivor of childhood domestic violence, there were so many years where I just lied about my family to all my friends and my community because it was so shameful to talk about what my family was really like. And so I think that's sort of the root of this embarrassment. So I'm starting to, yeah, just open up space to be like, I'm not trying to convince you to not be embarrassed. I'm not also like falling into the energy, the gravity of your logic, but I'm like, I'm just here. I'm here for it. And so, yeah, that's sort of my growing edge right now, just to be with my embarrassment about different things as it comes up.
Mm. I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
you're here with us.
Thank you for letting me
Yeah.
say this. And I'm glad it's recorded because I feel like that's part of the healing process to just like be authentic with it.
And it's so courageous in the way that you love that part of yourself, are learning to love that part of yourself. It's really beautiful and sad and hard and welcomed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's resonant with other people hearing, needing to hear that
Yeah.
and feeling like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. That's a really powerful gift.
And
Yeah.
don't leave early.
Yeah. I will. I will.
We're gonna be following
Yeah.
leaving early.
But I think the message myself wants to share from what it's learned so far is like, whatever dream you have, it's okay if it takes a long time. It's okay if it looks different than when you set out. It's okay if it never happens. That doesn't mean that it's not worth dreaming about that. I have faith that my partner and I will become parents like soon. And it's like, um, yeah, just me kind of giving assurance to that part of like, that doesn't mean you did anything wrong or that you are not in integrity with yourself or that it was a failure. It's like, it's just part of the journey. And I think that's what myself wants to share with this community. Like, I think there's something in the way that we're socialized. It's like never say a dream out loud until you have evidence that you can do it.
Mhm.
And that's why we don't talk about miscarriages and all this stuff. And I'm like, I want to challenge myself to be as open and as authentic as I feel comfortable being. And I don't want to like sweep my story under the rug.
You're
Yeah.
not. You're really not.
Yeah.
You're being brave.
Thank you.
Consistently.
Mhm. Mhm.
What about you, Tiana?
Everyone went so deep. Something deep that wants to come out. And yeah, I think what's coming up for me is I'm trying to figure out the part that's coming up that's like it's judgment, it's judgment, it's judgment. It's like a judgment and retreat type of thing that's happening.
Mm,
Um, I know we've all talked about our families, and I in my family, we've experienced a lot of incarceration. And so my father was incarcerated, all his brothers were incarcerated. On the other side, on my mom's side, her brother was incarcerated. So it's just something that has consistently happened in my life. Um, and what I'm recognizing is most of my family is free right now. And I've been so present for them that all my male family members come to me with the struggles that are happening as they're reintegrating themselves into community. And sometimes there's things I do not want to hear. And I'm like, oh my God, like, really? But I know apparently I'm the only one that you feel comfortable telling this to. And there's been relapse. And every time there's relapse, this judgment part comes out because I'm just like, I go back to the little girl that has had to move through this.
mhm,
And I'm just like, haven't you gotten it? Don't you want to be here with us? Like,
mhm,
this might be your last chance.
mhm,
Um, and it makes me want to retreat. It makes me just want to give up. And and then, I have to talk to that part. And I have to talk to both the judgment and the anger
mhm,
and the sadness and the coping mechanism that makes me just want to leave
mhm,
because they would leave, you know, and recognize that that isn't the person that I am and that I can't give up on them because that's what these systems have done. And that's why the prison industrial complex was created in the first place.
Yeah.
To isolate us from each other, to further traumatize each other, to break up Black, Brown, Indigenous family units.
Yep.
And I can't feed into that. And it just feels like this constant struggle time,
Mhm.
Yeah, and it just happened this week with my uncle who's out after 23 years of being inside. Third striker, was never supposed to come out.
Mhm.
And by miracle, he's out. And he's recently relapsed. And I'm just like, they're sending people to El Salvador prisons. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Um, and I just had to talk to myself and regulate myself and be like, you know what? Come back. I love you. I can't do the work for you, but I'm going to keep on reflecting what can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love you.
Yeah.
And I want you to, I just pray for a healthy life for you.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's what you deserve, I deserve, we deserve
Mhm.
in this world.
And your auntie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm battling with those parts and also continuing to heal those younger versions of myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
And remind myself that I'm living in love and I
Mhm.
have to practice that across the board, even when it gets hard and challenging.
Yeah. You said that's all, but to me, that's everything. You know what you said. Yeah. How do you resource yourself when those parts come up because of like what's happening with your family members and what they confide in you? Just
Yeah.
curious. How do you resource?
I yell.
Yeah.
I
You let yourself yell. To
I
somebody,
dance.
at yourself. Damn.
I dance.
Yeah.
And I sit with the medicine, like
Mm.
recognizing that, you know, like sometimes I'll go into ceremony and medicine journey and be like, this is going to be about me. And then the medicine will be like, nope, nope. It ripples. And that's a big part of how I maintain and sustain myself.
Mm.
To go back to ceremony and know that what's coming up, I have the opportunity to transmute in that container.
Yeah.
And to get well. And as I get well, everything and everyone around me gets well. Mhm.
Yeah, that's so beautiful because I see so clearly how you are like open as a channel and a vessel of like to go beyond um yeah what is totally legitimate and valid as like a human in relationship to your family members and what the impact of that has been and to yeah to be open to that. Like I remember when the first question you were like, I know I'm in self because I'm connected to spirit, and like just what you said, I can really see that. See that.
Thanks, Heidi.